friends, it's Emily from burlapkitchen.com, and today we're going to show a kit that represents the true meaning of Easter. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to stain all of our pieces. So this kit is actually, all of our kits come with the wood cutouts and the embellishments. This one is actually just all wood cutouts. We do send a piece of sandpaper and then also a piece of wire to hang it. So the first thing that I'm doing is I am staining all of these pieces, all the wood pieces, and I am using Rust-Oleum water-based stain in the color Dark Walnut. So I'm just making sure that the front and back is stained. Also, make sure you get the edges of the cross real good, because if you don't have them stained well, they will stick out like a sore thumb. So make sure to stain them good. So next, I'm going to stain the back here quick. And I should clarify, if you keep your crosses stained, they will stick out like a sore thumb. We're actually going to paint them in this one. I had another kit that I did that I painted a little bit differently. I always like to show different ways to paint these so you can get different ideas of how you want to do your kit. So I'm using this, I believe it's moss green from Waverly. And I'm going to paint it with that. And I'm going to give it 2 coats. Make sure it's nice and dry in between each coat of paint. And I'm just going to dry it. Next, I'm going to come over to my 3 crosses, and I am going to paint those. So I'm using vintage white for these ones, and we're going to paint over them with the vintage white. We're going to add 2 coats of paint to each cross. Make sure you get the sides really good so it blends in. And then we're going to paint this 3rd cross. Then we're going to make sure everything is nice and dry. I'm not concerned about the back because you're not going to see the back. And we're going to add a 2nd coat of paint here real quick. So again, I'm using vintage white. It is a plaid crafts paint, I should say. And then we're going to give it a dry. And then I'm going to come over to the little rock here, and we're going to paint this with some pavement, the color pavement. And then we are going to actually lighten it up here in a minute. So I'm going to make sure it is nice and dry. Then I'm going to come over to my crosses. We'll go back over to the rock here in a second. I'm going to come over to my crosses and sand them really well. And then I'm going to add a lighter paint over top the rock. And then I'm going to make sure that is nice and dry. And then I'm going to come over and sand the little church window with my sandpaper. So you'll have a little piece of sandpaper in here. I always like to use these little yellow blocks. You can find them at Lowe's or Walmart. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the crosses how I want them to look, and then also put the rock here, and then we're going to go ahead and glue everything in place. So I'm just using hot glue for these. If you want to use something a little stronger like an E6000, you could use that also. So we're going to make sure they are good and sticking there to the back, and then we're going to go ahead and add the little rock and then also the stained heart. So we're just gluing everything down. Once everything's glued, dry those little holes where the wire is going to go. Make sure they're very dry before you put your wire through, or like sometimes paint gets stuck in there and it will poke through and get on your project. So I always recommend letting it dry overnight before you do this. And then you have a beautiful kit that represents the true meaning of Easter. For more information on this DIY wood kit, check the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.